All right, let's take a look at this problem here. We're given a table of values, and we want to find the trigonometric function that fits the table. Okay, so let's see if we can find a pattern here. Um, so it does appear that the pattern appears to repeat itself at 0 and then 12 and then 3 and 15. As you can see here, 0 and 12, and then 3 and 15, and so forth. There seems to be a pattern. So based on this pattern, that gives us part of our function. So if it repeats every 12, goes 0 and 12, we have the same output, and then 3 and 15, which is 12, also 12 away, same output, and so forth. Then that tells us what the period is. The period is equal to 12. Okay. So the period being 12 actually gives us our b value for our sine or cosine function. Pretty sure we have a sine or cosine function. So b is equal to 2 pi divided by the period 12, which equals pi over 6. Okay, so just noticing that pattern gives us our period, and in result gives us our b value of our sine or cosine function. We'll figure out what that is. But we can also determine some other information. So looking at the most extreme values, we can determine the amplitude and midline. So first off, the midline, or it doesn't really matter. So I'll just say amplitude and midline. Okay, so what we want to find is the most extreme output, and that will help us to determine our amplitude, and then in turn find the midline. So notice that the max output appears to be negative, or sorry, no, that's the smallest value. The largest value appears to be 1. And then the smallest value, the min, is equal to negative 5 for the output. Okay, so with this information, we can find the amplitude. The amplitude, oh wow, I spelled amplitude incorrectly there. Amplitude, that is equal to, well, it is the distance from the center to the top. So we could actually do 1 minus a negative 5 over 2. And that would give us 6 over 2 is 3. So that's the distance from the center to the top or bottom, that distance. So that is our a value in our function here. So we found a, we found b, and now we can find the midline also. The midline is directly in between the min and max. So we can find the average, which would be 1 plus a negative 5 over 2, which gives us negative 4 over 2, which is -2. So that is the midline, and that's the d value in our function. Now we needed to determine if we are dealing with a sine or cosine function. So the sine starts at the midline, and the cosine starts at the max or min. So notice that the starting point, which is right there, that's the starting point at x equals 0. It's actually starting at the highest point, the max, right? That was the max. Max is 1 output. So that is exactly what a cosine function is. So since it starts at max, then that tells us we're dealing with a cosine function, right? Because if you're thinking about a cosine function, you start at the max and then you build your graph. Okay, so if we're doing that, we would go ahead and use a cosine function, and there's no horizontal shift because we're starting at the max, exactly. So we will not have a c value. So that also tells us that c is equal to 0. There's no horizontal shift. So we're going to be using y equals a cosine bx plus d. There's no c. There's no minus c inside the parentheses with the x. And so this would be equal to y equals, and what we found already, 3 cosine of pi over 6x minus 2. And that is it. We found our function that models the set of data that was given to us in the table. All right, let me know if you have any questions about this problem. I'm more than happy to help, and good luck in your studying for the final.